All right. So we are live and we're here for another live recording of the Elite Development Podcast. So this show, as I mentioned, is going to be coming out 3 times a week. And today is Sunday. So today we're going to be talking about goal setting. Today we're going to be going through a goal setting process, hopefully giving you guys some takeaways that you can apply, not imply, to your own goal setting process. But just before we get into the show, um, I want to go over who I want on these live streams, who I want tuning into this podcast. It's anybody involved in the athlete journey. The show's goal is to help athletes build their dream careers in sport. So, in order to do that, when I go live on these shows, when I go live for these recordings, I want to be talking to athletes. I want to be talking to coaches. I want to be talking to parents of young athletes that are trying to teach their kids how they can pursue their dream and succeed in building their dream career in sport. So today we're going to be talking about goal setting. We're going to give it a little bit of time before we get into it, but we're going to be going through a goal setting process. And then we're going to be going through how you can apply this goal setting process to yourself and in turn to help you succeed more in your career in high performance sport. So let's get into the show. We're going to get into the show here. Just 1 second. We're going to get into the show here in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the show designed to help athletes gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. Today is Sunday, so we are going to be talking about goal setting. So on the show today, we're going to be going through my goal setting process, and then we're going to be talking about how you can apply this process to yourself and why having a goal setting process is important for you as an athlete to build your dream career in sport and gain an edge on your opponents. So before we get into it, I want you to ask yourself, how often have you sat down and thought, man, I can't stop struggling with a certain habit, a certain skill in your sport, whatever it is, how often do you sit down and wonder why you just can't get past a certain struggle, can't get past a certain pain point? Because what I find often happens with athletes that I've worked with, athletes that I speak to, is they can't seem to get past one certain area or one certain problem in the sport. And as I get further and further into it, I realize that the reason they're stuck for so long on a certain problem or a certain pain point in their sport is that they don't have a specific plan to get past it. So if you've been struggling, let's say, as an example, with a specific skill in your sport and you've been struggling with it for a long time, but then you just keep trying it and struggling with it and trying it and struggling with it, what makes you think that continuing on doing exactly what you're doing is going to make the improvement that you want to make? Another way to look at it is, let's say, as an example, you're struggling with getting all your training sessions in within a week. So then every single week, you start your week and you think, this week I'm going to get them all in. This week I'm not going to miss. This week is going to be the week where I actually get through everything and I don't miss even once. But then the week starts, and as it always does, it gets busy. And then as it gets busy, you start to miss you miss one training session, and then all of a sudden you're starting to feel a little bit bad that you missed one training session, and then one turns into two, and then you're sitting down that next weekend and you realize that you got no better this week. Oftentimes when this happens, and this is common, it's just from lack of planning. It's just from you not having something that you do each and every week to actually plan out your week to make sure that you make these improvements and make sure that you don't miss on these training sessions or don't miss whatever it is that you're struggling with right now. So that is why I have a weekly goal setting routine, is because it allows me to look back on my previous week, see where I did well, where I didn't, and then it allows me to step into this week understanding where I need improvement, understanding where I'm doing well, and and then I set goals to improve on the things that need improvement and to keep rolling with the things that are doing well. So we'll get into the goal setting routine now. So the first thing that I do is I break my goals down into three different categories. And this is on the advice of my business coaches. This program has been fantastic for me, but we can talk more about that another time. So the first category is health. And the reason I have health as the first category right now is because as my business has grown, that's been one of the places that has fallen off a little bit. I'm generally still very good to get training sessions in, but every once in a while I might slack on them, or if not, I'm going, but I'm not maybe going as hard as I like to or as hard as I usually do. Because I'm busy and I'm stressed with a couple of other things, and then all of a sudden it's easy to kind of let that drop off, like I've mentioned previously already. So that's why health is number one, because as the business grows, I know that to be the leader of this business as I want to be, my health needs to be in check. So health is my number one category. And my first health goal this week is not missing on training sessions. And again, the reason why is because when things get busy, when I do get a little bit stressed, it's massively important to me that I'm taking care of myself. Because if I'm taking care of myself, I know I'm better equipped to handle whatever comes up in the day to day of the business. And then number two is having my phone down and being in bed by 10 o'clock. The reason that this is an important one for me, I get up at 5:15 every morning, and I know that I function when I'm sleeping well. So having my phone down and being in bed by 10 o'clock, even if I'm not asleep by 10, allows me to wind down faster and in turn get a better night's sleep to be up early the next morning. I'm not aiming for quite the amount of sleep that I want yet, because I know this is a process and this has been an area I've struggled with the last little while. So I want to make sure that I'm working towards it, taking it one step at a time and not trying to go too far too fast, so that it's a goal that I'm actually going to be able to achieve. And then once I'm consistent with that in bed by 10, we might even move that up a little bit more. And so those are the two top health goals that I have this week: to every day be in bed by 10, and then make sure that I'm not missing on a single training session. I got 5 training sessions to do this week, so it's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm looking forward to being very, very sore throughout that week as well. So number 2 is the wealth goals. So the wealth goals for me are important because obviously if I'm going to continue to run a business and continue to make the impact that I know I'm making with a lot of athletes now worldwide, I need to be bringing in some money. And so the way I like to look at my wealth goals is, instead of focusing on a number, instead of focusing on I need to make $3,000 this week, I focus on the habits that lead to the money coming in. And the reason I like to do that is because, again, I like to teach, not getting attached to outcomes. If you're an MMA fighter and your only goal is to win the fight, well, then the whole time you're worried about not losing the fight and you're not focused on how well you're performing. Whereas if your goal is focused on the performance itself, the result of the performance takes care of itself. So I look at my business the same way. I'm not looking at how much money can I bring in this week. I'm looking at what are the habits that I know I need to be doing every day in order to bring in the money that I want to be bringing in. So goal number 1 is being 100% on my daily non-negotiables. So this is my social media posts, being social on social media every day, talking and building relationships with athletes everywhere. I set another goal of putting out 3 podcasts a week, because I have a yearly goal of hitting 15,000 podcast downloads by the end of the year. Right now, we're pushing close to 9,000. So if you're listening to this one, make sure you go download a few more episodes, take a look at some of those interviews in my first 100 episodes. And then this, I believe, is going to be episode 114. I might not be correct on that, but make sure to check out the other ones as well that have come out previously, so that you can get the value and we can get me to that 15,000 download goal. The next one for me is 30 minutes of education every single morning. So every day I have this written into my calendar for, I believe it's 7:30 in the morning this week. I set that a couple hours ago here. And I do 30 minutes of education every day. And the reason that I do this 30 minutes of education is to make sure that first, I'm continuing to learn about training, about coaching, about how to better deliver to the clients that I have. And second, I'm learning about business, marketing, relationship building, all of these things that are going to continue to allow me to grow my business as well. So, 30 minutes of education every morning. And then the next goal that I have is to sign 2 new clients every single week. As my business continues to grow and as my team continues to grow, I want to make sure that I'm not only filling out my own schedule and filling out my own business, but continuing to work for these guys as well and continuing to build out their businesses, help them be successful, and make sure that all together we can continue to impact the lives and careers of athletes everywhere. It's a big goal of mine to impact the careers of millions of athletes around the world. And one of the biggest ways that I'm going to get there is by building out a team that are all impacting athletes in their own way. So, the final wealth goal is to retain 100% of the athletes that I already have. My goal is to positively impact careers, and I can't do that if athletes don't continue working with me as well. So the goal is to retain every athlete I have because I believe in the training that I'm delivering. And if I am able to deliver top quality training and they are continuing to stick with it, then they're going to see the results they want to see. And in turn, I'm going to continue to see those results in my business that I want to see as well. The final goal category is relationships. So category number 1, I'm looking at client relationships. And so one of the goals I have set for that is to make sure that I'm responding to all client questions within 24 hours to make sure that whether or not my athletes are seeing me in the gym, they're getting their questions answered. They're getting their technique broken down. They're getting everything that I can possibly deliver to them. And then the other relationship that I'm looking at is my relationship with my girlfriend, Kiara. And number 1 is to be 100% present every time I'm with her. Usually we see each other once or twice a week. It's just busy schedules kind of intertwining. So my number 1 goal is to be 100% present every time I'm with her. So that means phone is down. I'm not getting back to messages. I'm not on social media. I'm not doing anything like that. I'm concentrating my time with her and thoroughly enjoying it. And number 2 is to express gratitude for her every single day because she's been an incredibly positive force in my life, incredibly supportive and just an amazing person to have around. And so I need to make sure that I'm showing her that. I need to make sure that I'm telling her that and that she knows that every single day. So those are the goals that I have set for myself for the week. If you tuned into this live, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. If you are watching it back on the replay, if you are listening to it on the podcast, I would love to know first what your number 1 goals are this week. But second, if you had any big takeaways from this goal setting process. Is there anything that you have been struggling with for weeks on end and you don't know how to go about setting goals to improve on that? Is there anything that you've been working towards in your own goal setting? Is there anything you're going to take from this process to add to the process that you work with already? Whatever that takeaway is, I'd love to hear it. But again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Elite Development Podcast. I'm your host, Kenny Dussault. I look forward to talking to you all again soon.